Life is beautiful.
The Theo Bros Podcast.
Yo, how we doing? I am Mike Theo,
I am Nick Theo.
and you are listening to the Theo Bros Podcast.
We can count on daily wisdom to get your mind right.
I am really proud of us because a couple weeks ago, we were both feeling really, really sick, really, really tired. You were literally like a day or two away from having a child, and we had just been going like day after day for months. Like we were completely burnt out, and we showed up to film 5 episodes of the podcast, sick and tired. And we were about to say, you know what, we'll take a break. You're about to have a baby. That's the perfect excuse for us to tell our audience, listen, we're taking a few days off. Nick just had a baby, like taking a few weeks off from the podcast. And then we decided, no, we are going to be professionals. We're going to do this and put in the reps. And if they suck, which they kind of did, then they suck. But we're going to be consistent and show up and do the work anyway. And it reminded me of what Steven Pressfield, the author of The War of Art and Turning Pro, who we've interviewed on this podcast, one of our favorite interviews, says about turning pro. What does he say that is? In your own words.
In my own words, it's basically showing up no matter what.
Yeah.
That's how I could simply
He
put it.
basically has 2 different versions of people. There are amateurs,
Yeah.
and then there are pros. And he says the amateurs show up when their anxiety is low and they had a good night of sleep, when they're feeling motivated. That's when the amateur shows up. The pro shows up no matter how many hours of sleep they got, no matter how motivated they feel, no matter how inspired they feel, no matter what, they show up day after day after day after day. The amateur goes and does the work because they care about the results that work is going to get.
Yeah.
The pro shows up and does the work and has no care for how that work performs in the world. They just have tied their identity to showing up day after day to do the work, and they let the rest take care of itself.
Now I'm going to give you a real life example of someone who is a pro.
Tell me.
The flu game.
MJ?
Michael Jordan, 1997 NBA Finals, Game 5. He woke up in his hotel room in Utah. He had a fever over 100, chills. He couldn't keep food down. He needed IV fluids, and he could barely stand without help. His trainer said he looked like a person who should be in a hospital, not on a basketball court. Everyone thought he'd sit out. Most humans would, but Jordan obviously wasn't most humans. So he shows up to the game, and he decides to drop 38 points.
That's insane.
Hit the game-sealing three-pointer, and he collapsed into Scottie Pippen's arms walking off the floor. And that moment is extremely iconic. That picture is everywhere. But that is the flu game.
I just got the chills.
That is someone who is a pro.
Now, what about when Kobe tore his Achilles and just still walked onto the court with a torn Achilles and finished his free throws?
Yeah.
That's insane. Those are people who are built different.
But so what are the rules of a pro? A pro doesn't wait for perfect conditions.
Yeah.
A pro separates feelings from commitment.
Yeah, that's the biggest one.
And a pro honors the craft and not their comfort.
The biggest one is the feelings.
So, yeah, and that's what commitment really is. It's doing what you said you were going to do long after the mood you set it in has left.
Oh, man, that hits. That hits.
That's what commitment is.
Because that's what we do. We get in these peak states. We're like, yeah, I'm going to lose weight.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the gym.
famous.
New Year's resolutions are obviously like they're the perfect examples of this.
And that's what an amateur is. An amateur is you have that feeling, you're all jazzed up, you're about to start training, and then 2 days in, you're tired, and you say,
so Steven Pressfield wrote in his book, he said, someone once asked Somerset Maugham, who I think is a writer. Yeah, it's a writer. If you wrote on a schedule or only when struck by inspiration. He replies, I write only when inspiration strikes. Fortunately, it strikes every morning at 9 o'clock sharp. So basically he's saying, there's no such thing as inspiration strikes me. I sit down in my chair and I show up for an hour, 2 hours, and if no words come out of me, it doesn't matter. I showed up and I did the work. I think the real important thing here is that going back to what we started this episode with, we showed up and we had those crappy episodes, which if you're listening to this episode, I think was like 3 weeks ago, you could actually tell the difference in these episodes. For 5 of them, we just had low energy. It was like we barely could get through them. There was low enthusiasm. The important thing, though, is those ugly reps are everything. They are the thing that separates the amateurs from the pro. We have decided are turning pro with this podcast, and we will be showing up no matter the circumstances. And if we just continue to do that, the results will take care of themselves. I don't want to go on and on. I think people get the idea here. Let's wrap it up with the call to action.
What do you got?
I think the call to action is to really look at your life and figure out what it is that you need to turn pro at. What are you being an amateur with? What are you only doing when you feel cozy and comfortable, when you feel motivated, whether that's your weight loss journey, whether that's your career, whether that's, I don't know, you have any other example? Your relationship, maybe even, you're letting coast, your finances, you feel like you budget 1 month, the next month you're like, screw it. I'm just going to go on this vacation and not care about my budget anymore. What do you have to actually turn pro with to get those results that you've been saying you wanted for years? Go and turn pro and do it for a year and keep your head down and don't look up.
Yeah, and just remember that definition of commitment. It's after that mood has passed, can you keep doing it? Because that is what makes all the difference. Thanks for hanging out with us. We love you. Peace. Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end.
If you're new here, we share daily mindset motivation in 10 minutes or less.
So if that's your vibe, hit subscribe or check out another episode right here.